Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here and to present some ideas on the, I think, very traditional issue of the not just fiscal or tax systems in Regia or in Europe, but also I think it is very interesting maybe to compare, because the first lecture was very, let me say, the dynamic, or the topic is on the inflation and the risks, and it's very important. And now we have, let me say, one traditional instrument. It is not so dynamic, and it's usually at the end of some thoughts on the importance of some fiscal instruments. But I really think that it is very interesting, or even more important instrument to discuss, and that was the reason I chose to present. I will give you a short, let me say, just a review of the situation in Croatia, but in general I will try to connect the same tax type in the EU, and maybe I believe we will have some discussion on that, what we can do or what will happen in the future with this tax type. What was the reason to devote this conference presentation to the taxation of the real estate or immovables? I think that we all have registered that in the last few years, I think not just in Croatia, but mostly in Croatia, but in all Europe, the prices of the property, and especially of the immovable property in real estate, has increased, but it's very substantial. It's very, very important also to notice that this issue or this topic is very connected with the social issues in all states of the Europe, and not just in the Europe, but in general. So that is something that we have to observe and to have in mind, that the issue of the taxation will for sure have influence on the social functions of our states. And I think we will also agree that at this moment the position of real estate taxes, there are several types, but the position and importance are quite, I will say, low. It is not something that we can that we find that is very important tax type. And in general observation, we all know that there is just few places that we can go in taxation to try to find, to redefine, and to find some good solutions, because we have done a lot in the field of the taxation of the work and of the income. We have done a lot in the taxation of the consumption, and we do have, I will say, some sort of the duty or obligation to discuss what we should do with the immovables and real estate and the property in our countries. So usually taxation of the real estate is found as something supplemental and or something additional, and we should maybe agree, but there is very, very big part of the functions of the states that lies in the property taxation. We in Croatia, in last, let me say, at least 30 years, 3 decades, we are discussing how to design, how to get well-designed property tax, and I have to admit that we don't have final answer or something like that. So the position of the real estate taxes in Croatia, it is just briefly, I think the text it's too many texts in this slide, but as I said, it is possible in historical perspective to find 3 stages in some sort of the developing of property taxation in Croatia. But in general, we do not have some general property tax. We have partial, and it is the tax on the houses, holiday houses. We did have, but unsuccessful attempt of our government to introduce, and we did get a Local Taxes Act, and it was prescribed a general property tax in Croatia, but after political, let me say, not just debates and criticism, we have abolished this tax. So it is, of course, we do not have it as a general tax of property in Croatia. And in the same time, we always have in mind that there is constitutional obligation not in Croatia in this case, that everyone is obliged to participate in the settlement of the public needs according to the economic capacity, and there are some general provisions in Croatian constitution, as it should be, is constitutional provisions. We also do have some other constitutional provisions that limit. That will limit, I will say, taxation, so not to go too much in the issue of the property, and of course not just with the property taxes, but in general the real estate tax is not recognized as something that is important or that has some influence on in general tax system in Croatia. Of course, as I said, we have preserved just one type, and that is the tax on holiday houses in Croatia. It is, as I put here just few notes. It is a local tax. It is municipal or city tax. It depends on the decision of local authorities if they will have this tax type. And it is wholly it is a revenue of the local budgets. The tax rate is depending on the decision of local authorities. Of course, the boundaries are in the law from the central state, depending, but still. The tax base is not the value of the houses, but this depends on the usable surface and the location of that house. I think it's a very, very old, or not just old, quite traditional way of determining the tax base, and something that should be applied anymore. And when we look just shortly at the EU level, what's happening there, the most countries, or let me say just one, do not have property taxes. So the most of them have the tax base in that case that is depending on the value of the property. And of course there are quite big differences in that. What is that value of the property? Is that capital value or the rental value? And there are some let me say mixed solutions in some member states, but still it's very good, or it is good solution to have the tax base defined as the value of the property, and then we should find, of course, the answer what will be the value. And although these differences are present in member states, it is also possible, of course, that the tax base will depend on the position of that immovable or of that real estate and of the area of that property. So that is we also have in Croatia, and that I will not go in the details, but additionally to this tax on holiday houses, we have a sort of the utility or user charge, and in a practice, or not just in a practice, it is recognized as some sort of the hidden local tax and real estate tax. But still, or again, the functions that property taxation have are not fulfilled with such an hidden real estate tax. In same time, of course, as I put here in red, most member states, as I said, tax residential and land and buildings and houses, and the taxes on land and on buildings quite are differently regulated, meaning, of course, in a definition of the tax base and tax rates. And in most countries, also as in Croatia, before mentioned, a situation of our partial property tax. There is also a situation that local governments decide on rates and collect these revenues. But of course, the national tax laws in generally or always provide these minimum and maximum tax rates. So the issue of the tax base and the issue of the tax rates, when we talk about property taxation, are quite important. Usually, when we discuss on the tax types or taxation in general, then the focus is on the tax rates, but it should not be in that way discussed or defined, because of course it is there are some other parts as tax base that is very important, or I will say it is the most important part of all taxes. But when we come to tax rates, there we have let me say general discussion or problem. Should we opt for the progressive taxation? We all know what does it mean, but when we come to property taxation, then I think that will be something, let me say, new, or some sort of the proposal that should be discussed. Do we need progressivity in a property taxation? Because this brings not just questions, but this issue gives us some answer on the importance of property taxation for the redistribution function of the taxation, and it also gives us the answer on the possible consequences of the property taxation in the context of the moving or trying, of course, to decrease inequalities that we have. So it is the part of this presentation, maybe just to provoke or to have questions and, of course, discussion on that. What do we think on the issue of the progressive taxation of the property? And not just that, because at the EU level we have also some not proposals in a formal sense, but discussions on the property taxation and how to well design real property tax. And there are, of course, discussions on that, what property tax will bring us new, how it will influence the growth or the issue of the inequalities, or maybe even the issue of the sustainability. So that are all some aspects of the taxation of property that we should have in mind. And in the program we have the local taxes and property taxes again at our conference. So I think we will have or bring some conclusion in that sense. Mostly when we talk about property taxes, or not in general local taxes, but when we talk about property taxes, there is a general conclusion that revenues are low in all member states, but there are differences. And when we look at the local budgets, the property taxes are not so low. In general, when we compare them with other tax revenues, then we have this picture. And In 2019, it was 2.2% of the GDP in the EU, and it is low when we compare it with the labor or when we compare that revenue with the consumption taxation. So, but still, of course, when we look at this side on the issue of possible redistribution function and equity functions that might be achieved, then we can see here that the revenue are increasing, and that is the place where we can try to find the solution for the property taxes in EU and in our countries, as the revenue is increasing. Instead of some conclusion in this topic, there are, I think, open questions or issues that are in this topic presented. How to design property tax and to achieve, let me say, maybe even too many goals, because of course it's not very good for any tax type to have so many goals. You should have one, of course, not just financial or fiscal, but if you have too many goals, it's also not very happy, and for legislator and for taxpayers. But in general, property tax when it is, or it should be, of course, well designed, it might bring us reducing inequality. And of course, in the same time, it is not just that it might bring us reducing inequality. It is also important to try to find a way to bring or introduce progressive taxation of the immovables or property. Of course, it is not just one part, but it is the element of this achieving or reducing inequality in this tertial type of the taxation with income and labor and consumption. And also, as I said, there are other goals, and in that time, in this moment, it is very, let me say, not just important, but it is not possible to mention that we have so many environmental objectives, and what will happen with the taxation, property taxation, when we connect that with protection of our environment. And it is also in some studies concluded that it is possible to have a well-designed property tax that will in the same time bring us this protection of environment. Social states and the functions of all member states, and especially in Croatia, it's always quite a big discussion on that. And new and well-designed property tax is something that should be introduced. Some economic analysis also say that there is a economic ratio that for property taxation there is, or it is strong. And the last, maybe, or not last part, yes, is that reforming in general of the real property taxation should bring us these discussions on the well-defining property tax base and progressive rates. The property taxation and real estate taxation are something that is also in agenda of not in general in the EU, but the European Association of Tax Law Professors is discussing on that, let me say, last few years, but it is finally defined that in 2025 it will be also devoted to that, what is the situation in member states and what should be our proposals. So with this note, I will end, and of course I wait for your comments, critics, and proposals. So I believe we will have a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much for your attention.